Hi, blessings. It's so wonderful to be here with you today. We have our special guest who's also becoming like a regular
Yes,
on
yes.
Pizzo's pages. Maya is here today, and we have some wonderful topics that we wanted to explore. Remember, I bring Maya on basically as a multi generational conversation around writing and pursuing our goals and dreams, marketing. She is an expert in her field. So I'm going to let her tell you all about her social media so that you can follow her, as well as her background in marketing and promotion and being a graduate student. Take it away, Maya.
All right. So, first of all, thank you so much for having me back on.
Oh,
I
I love it.
really enjoy
Isn't her hair
the
fabulous?
conversation. Thank
Please
you
put
so
in the
much.
comments how fabulous this natural hair beauty is. She just got it done. It's
Yes.
wonderful. Okay.
Just happened. But I truly enjoy the conversations that we have here just because I do feel like it's something that is mandatory and that you are truly filling a space that is not being met right now. So of course, as I've mentioned before, I am a graduate student and I'm studying advertising and communications. My undergraduate degree was in advertising management with a minor in art and cultural management. So I just kind of kept going and didn't stop.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
Yes.
If you're in school, don't stop. Just keep going till you get that final paper. You got a doctorate behind your name if that's your goal, or you got your master's behind your name, graduate school. Just keep going. That's the right way to do it.
Just get it out the way because it is a muscle that if it's not worked, goes away very quickly.
Yes.
So that is that. But you can find me on Instagram at Maya, that's MAIAB with 2 underscores behind it. Or you can find me on YouTube now at That Girl Maya B.
I'm so excited about her YouTube. So say the YouTube one more time.
Yep, it's That Girl Maya B, spelled the exact same way, MAIAB.
All right, very good. So today's discussion is going to be about cancel culture. So this is something, the term is new, but I'll tell you, there's nothing new under the sun. And this behavior or these acts of canceling folks is not new.
Exactly.
So give us, but part of what Maya does in the work that she does and in her education pursuits is learn about all of these current social media driven trends in how we communicate and how we relate and connect with people globally and throughout the social media airways. So tell us, what is cancel culture?
Sure. So before I even explain that, I just really have to put forth the way that people think about social media. Specifically, when you're talking to like an older demographic, people are like, "Oh, it's just social media. Who really cares?" But to younger people, we really feel like we actually know somebody in what they put out, for whether it be for their job, whether it be for their personal life. If it's on social media, we really think that that is who you are because you are posting there multiple times a day. It is your constant thought that then aligns with your brand, right?
Yes.
So
I just saw my son did an interview, his first post game interview
Cool.
with an organization, and they were talking about social media and how social media has sort of even changed sports a lot
Yes.
because they're going back and forth all day before they even play their games, and what that builds in animosity and competition. But one of the things that what the statement that came out was that the phone is oftentimes a young person's only friend.
Yep.
Because they interact all day on the phone, and that is really how they communicate with their friends, with other people. And so the phone really represents their friend circle, which is very different than my generation who grew up without having phones. And phones are like an addition to who we are and plays a huge benefit for many of us, and yeah, we are attached to it. But I think there is definitely a difference in the generations on how we view using social media and having our phone constantly attached to us to be able to interact on social media.
Exactly. So when we loop back around to what cancel culture actually is, it is simply put, when somebody basically puts something out and or says something or does something that is A, so much against their character, B, not acceptable by society, or C, just plain wrong, and the culture, as in their fan base or their followers, deem it as like unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
And it could be something just as a simple remark, as a plain sentence, that you simply just can't come back from.
A sound bite.
Yes. that can be twisted in many different ways.
Yes. Interpreted and analyzed and revamped 100 different ways.
Yes.
That may not even be reflective of the person.
Exactly.
But that person attached themselves to it by retweeting or by posting
or even just being associated with that person.
Associating with that person. Yes. And so we hear a lot of terms like they can't come to the barbecue anymore.
Yep.
They're out of the barbecue. We saw that with Stacey Dash.
Yes, but she's been uninvited.
Yes, she said she's been uninvited.
She's been uninvited for a while.
People are saying, that you're cut off from the culture. You can't be a part of it. And the thing about it, what I see that seems vicious to me, and I'm going to give my opinion about this whole cancel culture as well, is that once that one posting or that one soundbite is out there attached to that person, what happens is the culture, the social media culture community will then begin to dig up all this dirt to add to the fire that this is really representative of this person. And it's not like an outlying act, but that this really does speak to who this person truly is, to make sure there's evidence of why this person needs to be canceled from the conversation, the experience, the Black group, the Latinx group, that this evidence that is incredible how fast people in social media are able to pull up articles, pull up quotes, pull up interviews, old tweets, old YouTube or Yahoo Community Connect.
But just random little pieces of footage. And the saddest part about that is, it may be something that happened 10 plus years ago and you've already said that you have apologized for this, or this, you've agreed that is wrong and that it's no longer who you are. But people who did not know you before this was brought to light think that this is what you still say and this is what you still stand by. And
what your belief system really represents.
Right.
Now, how is this damaging to you and your brand, to what you're trying to create as your platform? Why is cancel culture so damaging?
This is damaging because you're talking about like your already perceived audience, right? So people who already follow you, that already really know you, they think that you're doing this, but at the same time, they're also canceling out anybody else that did not have the chance to know you before this happened.
Yes.
So people who potentially could have, been a part of your fan base in the future based off of a future project or anything like that, now know you as just this. Whereas your actual fan base knew you prior to and knew all of, your different attributes to yourself. Where this one group of people only knows you for this.
Yes.
And so that's extremely damaging to your brand. And then it's also damaging to the other opportunities that you may have had. Because along with those people who did not know you, you have people who are in publishing houses, that are in, magazine corporations and things of that nature, that will now also view you as the same and will not give you those opportunities based on whatever that may have been.
Yes, and that's really important to me, is that because the group or the project or the demand, say you're trying to become a published author or you're trying to become a brand, ambassador, because there are so many out there trying to do that same thing. There's so much competition in that space. Companies will not take the time to discover whether this cancel culture is correct or not, or if whatever that perceived idea about this person or even company is correct or not or accurate, because they can just move on.
Mm-hmm.
Why take that time when I could just go to my next choice? So that's how damaging it can be, is that
Yes.
oftentimes it's very difficult for that person to recover. And even if that person, it really does not represent whatever was put out there to cancel them,
Right.
right?
If that's what you meant at that time, people change over the span of a good 10, 15, 20
Say
years later.
that again.
So you may completely be a totally different person from who you were when you were 22 or 23. That is still very much sticking with you.
Yes.
Especially in today's day of the internet.
Yes.
And just like the impact now. Specifically, we know when stuff happens or where we were when stuff happens.
Yes.
Because when
our
you go
own
on your
experience.
phone, it's all you can see, and that's all that you are ingesting. So no matter what, I know exactly where I was, who I was with when Kobe passed.
Yes.
And that is like
Yes.
forever etched in my brain.
Yes.
Just because A, that was a big deal.
Yes.
But B, everywhere I looked, you could not escape it.
Yes.
And that is what happens in big situations for cancel culture as well. That's all you see.
Yes.
Is that this is happening.
Yes. So I agree exactly with that. I think more from an educator's perspective, when I taught history for so long, there were members of, for instance, the white community that participated in behaviors and acts that was against African American people. And some of those very people were able to evolve and grow and learn about equality and equity and dispel many of the myths that had been placed out in the culture centuries ago about the differences between blacks and white. And through their evolution, did some wonderful things for African American growth and development in this country. But yet, through cancel culture, we'll see something put out about that individual from before they had that evolution. And then everybody jumps on that bandwagon as that's who that person is represented as. And I'm very against that. I believe people should be allowed to grow and evolve, and they should be allowed to not be their reputation not to be based on a soundbite,
right,
or some old piece of data that's been dug up and analyzed and morphed. I think a lot about the work we do. And when we think about independent films, which I love documentaries and independent films. But in the work that I do, one of the things that I've realized about independent films is that they are from the lens of that director. They are from the lens of that producer, and whatever story arc narrative they would like to frame it in, that's their perspective. It doesn't mean that that is truth, because you can frame anything any way you like to frame it. And I think about even with all of the Netflix, documentaries that are being pumped out so fast, and not to speak against those who are the creators of that work, but I think we have to put in perspective that there's a frame that they are choosing to put the work out in. And unless you live through that time, I'm thinking about the movie with NWA.
Straight Outta Compton.
So when I grew up during that time, I remember the constant news turmoil surrounding East Coast versus West Coast.
Do you remember the whole Joe Lewis thing?
I remember all of Joe Lewis.
So I actually went and saw that movie with my mom, and as soon as she saw them sitting on the steps, she was like, "This is Joe Lewis. Like that's exactly what that is." And it instantly took her back. And like I said, because it was everywhere, you knew exactly what it was. You'll never forget it.
Yes, but the funny thing about it is, when I walked out of the film, I thought the film was great and it was a great story. But I thought, wow, they framed that to represent them as the good guys.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, they were not the good guys during that time period. Our urban communities were turbulent with the crack epidemic, with gun violence, and they were the riots, and they were perpetuating a lot of that. Not that they didn't have cause or reason to, but they were in a mix that was not like we were on their team.
Right.
We weren't on the police violence team either, but the reality of it is just the framing of that film had them in a very nice light. And that was a real lesson for me about we can frame stories any way you want to. And if you didn't live and actually experience it, how do you really know that it's a frame? Right. And so that's really important.
It can just be so far removed from that.
Yes.
That it's just like, oh, that was a fuzzy time. And then we've talked about this before, but there's a thing about like nostalgia in people and just like the psychology of it. So depending on your experience during that time, somebody who may have actually been at the riots and lived through the riots remembers that entire time period of a year or so to be absolute terrible.
Yes.
And then somebody who may have been, living in the Midwest, far removed from it, just remembers that was a bomb album that NWA put out. We had some great times for that. I went to a concert. They are awesome. Right? Yes. Because that's what your brain does. You either highly, are favorable of it or the complete opposite.
Yes.
And because it is 20 plus years later.
Yes.
It was the perfect time to put out a movie. It's
Yes. So I think we have to be mindful of that. I think we have to recognize and be willing to learn outside of the social media. Don't let social media, my advice would be, don't let social media guide your every understanding of people and companies and organizations. Do your own research. Dig and explore on your own.
And that's really dangerous because there's actually like targeting that happens in social media as far as that.
Talk on that. What is targeting?
So targeting is basically like another way to say advertising, but it's kind of like in a funnel, right? So say for instance, I create an ad and I put in that said ad description that I only want to reach people from the age of 18 to 24 because it may be their first time voting. Politicians use this a lot. It may be their first time voting, and I want to make sure that I get to these people specifically in these areas that I know that I'm having struggles reaching, right? So I'm going to oversaturate them with all of these ads, all this stuff that looks native to the platform, in hopes that they, see that and it somehow resonates with them over time. And they'll do this for 4 or 5 months consistent. And actually, if you have, multiple social media accounts and or just YouTube, pay attention to the ads that you are seeing because it's for a reason. And so a lot of those will either have of course, their attributes as far as what they're trying to do in the upcoming election, or B, just terrible things about their opponents. And that's when they will dig up all the old stuff that they've done. They won't mention anything about the things they've done in the past 5 years or so. Not to say that the things they did in the past weren't cancel worthy, but it's really up to you to then go forth and actually do your research on these people.
Do your research.
And do not let, like you said, social media kind of frame what you think about them.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I totally agree. Because I've seen certain individuals canceled. Not that they didn't make a mistake in what was said, or maybe the soundbite was skewed or whatever, but they've been canceled And I recognized the good work that they were doing. I had some understanding about their history and background, and really understood some research. And that it bothers me that it's a mob mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that we so quickly are able to jump on the bandwagon of canceling individuals or the work of foundations when people are really trying to do good work. And then let's just bring it down to a very base level. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And I don't know about you, but I don't desire to be in a glass bubble, because all kind of stuff would come bubble up to the top. If it's not a good day, I might say some crazy stuff.
So just being completely transparent, I don't have a Twitter account because of that reason. Like, I just don't. I don't think that my thoughts are like that profound to just have like on tap every day. And then also, like, you just find so many people who are like, yes, back in 2016 on April 1st, you said this.
Yes.
And it's like,
yes.
I was in the middle of eating a Snickers and
hangry.
Right. And I just wanted to say this.
Yes. It's very impulsive often. And sometimes you don't think about it. It's such a quick draw to be able to put something out there, and then you can't pull it back.
You're saying stuff that is appropriate at the time. And so a prime example of this was the whole Kevin Hart situation, which was terrible. And in the grand scheme of things, that affected him hosting the Oscars. It was based off something he said 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
And then prior to that, you know, the Bernie Mac sketch, You Got Some Milk and Cookies, was in that same tone of line, but was perfectly fine because of the times. Right. And not to say that like that was okay, that's neither here nor there, because it's done and that's a long time ago, but you really need to be cautious of all of these things that you are saying, making sure that you're not offending any groups that, you know, are out there and could possibly be offended, but really thinking about your future opportunities.
Yes, I totally agree. But I also want to say that if an offense happens, because offenses happen every day, people should be allowed to apologize, to learn, to grow from them. We know we're at a place where offenses are coming fast and furious. And I still believe in humanity's ability to grow and learn and be corrected and not be so divisive. But I think we have a responsibility to give that to people.
Absolutely. And the thing about that is, if you are ever caught in these type of situations, really be sorry. Do
something different.
Yes. and really show that you're trying to put forth the effort into really making that change. So sticking to the Kevin Hart example, in his recent documentary on Netflix, he really dove into the whole issues of the matter and really was honest and said, you know what, first off, I got this wrong. And I realized that I got this wrong. And I went and I talked to all of the people that were in my life, that worked in my workplace, who actually were offended. And I really did the work. I really sat down with somebody to find out, why is this offensive and what am I doing? And not only am I just saying these things, but I'm condoning behaviors, which is why this is wrong.
Right.
And so really take that extra step to recognize that. And I feel like that's the main
Sit
reason.
at the table with the people you've offended. Be willing to do that if that takes place. To say, I have this conversation, and be genuine in sitting at the table to get a better understanding, a deep dive understanding of why it's offensive, why that is not acceptable. And don't just put token folks up there to speak on your behalf, but actually do the work that it takes to get a better understanding of it. I'm really excited about the ESPN documentary, Vic.
Oh, yes. I've actually been hearing a lot about that.
Because I lived through that whole experience, and I will tell you, no, I'm saying this flat out. What he did was horrendous. It was horrendous. But I will tell you that there is a different, oftentimes, in historical pathology of African Americans and animals, dogs in particular, we have a different relationship or have had a different relationship with animals than maybe what was known mainstream. And
Right.
we don't need to go into the deeps of it or anything. But when I look at the 1960 riots and I think about police dogs and I think of slavery and use of dogs, there has been this, ignorant understanding of how dogs and African Americans relate.
Right.
Okay. But when that act was done, when he did what he did, it cost him majorly. He went to prison for it and the whole nine. Lost everything. And I'm really want to hear him in this documentary talk about what his experience is. Why did he go that place? And yet, horrible that he did that. But can he redeem himself? Are we constantly saying through this cancel culture that people can never be redeemed from things that they do, no matter how bad they do them? If so, I think this is one of the things I struggle with. So if we're canceling all of these people based on sound bites and these acts and all of this kind of stuff, then how can we in the same breath say that we need social justice when it comes to prison reform?
Right.
You're talking about, for many of them, extremely violent offenders. And yet we recognize that they need a humanity to be able to really be rehabilitated and reformed and to be acclimated into society if that's their next step.
And I even think to further push that, even if you do come back from whatever it is, it'll never be the same.
I think it's difficult to be the same.
There are a bunch of mainstream examples that we can spend hours talking about, that something happened and they still do have some form of a career as to what they had before, but it'll never be the same potential that they had.
Yeah, I think so too, because people are very unforgiving. Unforgiving, and it's hard to come back after certain.
So some people are just grateful that they have whatever they have.
Yes. So give us our last words on what our response to cancel culture should be, how we should grow and develop, and as we build our platforms, what should we keep in mind when it comes to cancel culture?
So first things first. Really try not to make these mistakes. As you said, if you feel like, this is the hot buttons, stay away.
Stay away from hot buttons. That's why I don't do any politics. I used to try to get involved a little bit when the election first came, but I just decided it's just too big for me to tackle, and that's not my platform. Light, love, laughter. That's me. Yeah. And if it's not that, I'm not going to engage.
First things first.
And you got a family, you got somebody you can talk to personally, and if you don't find them and have those conversations with them.
Or get a Finsta, anything, just do not just go off on a handle on what you use to build your brand and for business purposes.
Yes.
It's not it. And then secondly, if you do make a mistake or you do have these type of things, find out why people think that is wrong. Mm-hmm. Find out first before you respond, because a lot of times people respond and say, I don't see anything wrong. Mm-hmm. And of course you don't, because you said it. Mm-hmm. So find out why you see that this is a problem, and then bring that to whoever or whichever group and truly apologize.
Yes.
Truly apologize and actually mean it, because people can smell the fake funk, and they
smelling
will see
the fake
through it.
Funk. I like that.
They will see through it. So truly apologize, and then lastly, after you see that is a problem, advocate for those people when you see that behavior being done. Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people fail.
Yes. And I would say, if you are part of the cancel culture community, you're the one always canceling somebody, I would say be cautious about blocking blessings and burning bridges that you may not ever be able to cross again. If you're somebody who's trying to build a platform, but you're always canceling people, you don't know if that person, the full story might be that was totally incorrect and totally perceived wrong, but you've already burnt a bridge that you might have needed in certain spaces.
Right.
in certain places. Yeah, we're talking about big name people, but there's a lot of smaller name
Absolutely.
people that, I will see these battles going back and forth over and everything. And I'm thinking, what if that person holds the key to unlocking an opportunity for you and you don't fully.
Just your peer.
Yes.
Somebody that you work with or somebody who's
Yes.
in the same circle as you.
Yes.
That does some of the same things.
Yes, definitely. Just be careful that you have a full story, that you do your research, you analyze, and you don't be a mob mentality, just following the herd to canceling people before you have a full understanding of what the situation is.
Right.
All right, this is Miss Maya. Please follow
Yes.
her, subscribe, follow Pizzo's pages, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. We're so happy you came to join us, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.